We are going to see how many books I can read in 24 hours using the timer method. We've got lots of droopy dying leaves over here. If it ends up like super clever and everything slides into place, amazing. Could this be my best reading month of all time? It's the 22nd of August, guys. It's not happening in September. It's time for the first Lorcana pack opening. That I have 3 hours and 16 minutes left of the book, and I have 3 hours and 8 minutes left on the timer. The issue is that I don't read. Good morning, guys. We are currently halfway through, or partway through, I guess. It's hump day in the 3rd week of Magical Readathon. I'm still reeling off the back of Lightbringer, but the show must go on, you know? So we gotta move. I don't know how I'll ever move past it, but I gotta move past it. So if you haven't noticed already, I'm doing at this point a little something for every week of Magical Readathon to encourage me to read more. And this week we are doing another time-based challenge. This is one that you've seen around. You've probably seen it many times, but it's one that I haven't done yet, and we are going to see how many books I can read in 24 hours using the timer method. So none of us are strangers to 24-hour readathons. I do one like literally every single month, but when I do a 24-hour readathon, I don't actually read for 24 hours. So the timer method, if you're unfamiliar with it, is where you set a timer on your phone and you set it to 24 hours. And is it the stopwatch one? I'm gonna have to look at the clock settings on my phone to figure out which one it is that I want. And if it resets at any point, it's over. Like, it's over, guys. But you set your timer on your stopwatch to 24 hours, and then, or you can do it the other way around, I guess, and you can time from 0 up to 24 hours. But every time you read, you have to start the timer and you see how much you read over a 24-hour period. So that's what we're going to be doing. My current read, if you are caught up on last week's vlog, is Gleanings, which is a collection of short stories from the Ark of a Scythe world. I actually only have 2.5 books left on my Magical Readathon TBR. So hopefully over these 24 hours, because I actually don't know how long it's going to take me to read for 24 hours. I read sporadically, intermittently throughout the day. So I don't know how much reading time I really get in. I used to be a late night reader and I just can't anymore. I fall asleep. With my little bits added up throughout the day, I don't know how long it's going to take us to get to 24 hours. But I'm hoping I can at least get through the 3 or 2.5, because I'm partially through this, books that I need to be done with Magical Readathon, and then we can start side questing. The readathon isn't over when it's over. This is just like my minimum requirements. But this one is in for one of the side quests, actually. It's the Demonology quest to summon an Impling, and this one actually hits all 5 prompts that you need for that. I started it at night. It has blue on the cover. It was released last year. It's by an author that I've read from before, and it is between 400 and 450 pages. So this one is a collection of short stories in the Ark of a Scythe world. Scythe is one of my favorite series. I read it back in like 2000 and I want to say 18, and then the last book was maybe released in 2019, and I loved it. And I mainly love the world in here. The story has a romance that isn't necessary, and I didn't love how the last book ended, but I adore the world. And what I always wanted from the Scythe series, or what I always thought about Scythe, is that you could have so many more stories in this world, because the world was so interesting and so well thought out, and the possibilities for what you could believably achieve in this world were endless. So the plot of the series itself is that we are set in a utopian world where humanity has eradicated anything that is going to kill you, essentially. So you can't die an accidental death, you can't be murdered, you can't die of illness. The only way that you can be killed is if a scythe gleans you, and the scythedom is in place because the only problem that humanity hasn't overcome is population control. So we have a governing body, a secret society almost, of scythes whose job it is to decide whose time is up. So our main characters in the trilogy are Rowan and Citra, who are 2 people who are taken as apprentice scythes for the same scythe. However, the plot thickens quite quickly and they end up on 2 very different paths as they journey through their apprenticeship into scythedom. And as well as that, there is also a lot of very obvious corruption within the scythedom as well, which plays a part in a larger plot. One of my favorite elements is that the world is ruled by an AI called the Thunderhead, and I always felt like within this world where humanity has conquered everything possible, because the scythedom is the only thing that the Thunderhead has absolutely no say in this world where you're looked over and looked after by this big omnipotent AI. The possibilities are endless, and I feel like the story of the original trilogy took up such a small corner of that world. So this is a collection of short stories. I had, I think, 2 that were set before the events of the trilogy, and the ones that I'm currently reading take place within the course of the core trilogy. The main characters aren't really in it at this point or anything, like I haven't had anything that focuses on them, but the timeline is that it's happening alongside the trilogy. I'm enjoying this enough so far. I am 158 pages into it. As you all know, I'm not the biggest fan of short stories in general. The only reason I'm reading this is because these stories take place in a world that I love so much and a world that I've wanted more from. The real kind of issue with this for me is kind of as I thought, as I predicted before I picked it up. The last book in this series was released in 2019 and this was released in 2022. So while I'm glad to have some more stories from this world, it's been a while. Arc of a Scythe series is no longer at the forefront of my mind. I have some distance from it now, and while I still obviously love it, that hasn't changed. A collection of short stories set in that world, I'm not scrambling to pick it up because I feel like it was published a little bit too far after the series, especially because it's not a spin-off or anything, it's just a collection of short stories, to be truly relevant and something that I'm like desperate to read. That being said, I am really glad to be back in this world. This series is super easy to read and also like instantly engaging because of that world, and that does remain true for the short story collection. So my plan is, I don't know when I'm going to finish this. I have like 300 pages left, so I'm not quite at the halfway point yet or anything, but because it is short stories, it's quite easy to be broken up and me to read one short story now, one this afternoon, one later tonight. So I don't think it's going to take me long to get through this at all. So I have my coffee, which is going cold. The good and bad thing about Nespresso is that the coffee comes out at like literally the temperature it needs to. So you gotta be speedy when you're drinking it. So my clock settings, we're going to use the stopwatch setting and I'm going to hope it doesn't reset itself, but we're going to be starting at 0. I'm going to sit back, I'm going to grab my book and I'm going to read for 20 minutes before my workday starts.
Press your dumbbell up, your knee is pressing down. You'll notice that this variation, you'll feel it a little bit more in your tricep, the back of that arm. Only take it as far back as you can control, right? You inhale, you exhale, shoulder blades slide down your back towards your booty.
So your girl has done a boo-boo. I have my Patreon 24-hour readathon for the month starting at 7 p.m. today, and I fully knew that it was happening. Okay, I was fully conscious of the fact that I had that today because I know that it lines up really well with this vlog as well, because obviously even though we're doing the timer method for 24 hours, having 12 hours of sprint spread across 2 days is going to give me some hella concentrated reading time. So it's not like I was unaware at all of this readathon. But yesterday I booked us a table at a gastropub in town for dinner at 6 p.m. and I'm supposed to start sprints at 7. So a little bit of a change of plan. We are going to be starting sprints at 7:30 now. The place where we're going to eat really isn't far away, so an hour and a half, 90 minutes should be ample time. And to be honest, I'm going to set off at 1:45, providing my hair's done, which means that we'll get there like before 6 anyway. So hopefully it's not a problem, but like damn, where was my brain when this was happening? I actually think I'm going to finish Gleanings tonight because I'm 305 pages into it. It's like 440 pages, but it reads so quick. I think on the timer we're just past 2 hours at this point, so that's like, I think it was 113 minutes we're on, and I've read 150 pages in that time, so that's pretty good. I do know though that this book reads faster than things that I typically read, so I'm not expecting to maintain that pace throughout the entirety of this. But now, like, I think in my brain I thought, oh, 24 hours, you can read like one book in that, maybe. But then thinking about it, really long audiobooks are 24 hours long, and audiobook narrators speak slowly than people read. So I feel like I'm gonna read tons more than I thought I was going to throughout this challenge. In terms of the book, I actually teared up at a story earlier. I think it was called The Mortal Canvas. And it's just, I knew, I had a feeling that something was coming. There was a little twist in it and I did guess it, but guessing it didn't ruin the effect because I had like a sense of foreboding about it instead. But in general, something that I really didn't expect from this short story collection is for them to be kind of spooky. Like some of these stories are really sinister and they're filling me with dread while I'm reading them. And I don't remember, I mean, obviously it was a few years ago when I read the original trilogy, so I don't remember if that is like a general feeling that I had when I was reading the originals, but we have some sinister stuff going on. And I mean, I'm not mad about it because it's adding like an extra layer to the stories, because as we know in general, I'm not the biggest short story girly. I am kind of right though, I feel, in the having distance from this series, this being released 3 years after, or 4 years, I think it's 3 years after the final book in the trilogy was published, is ruining my enjoyment a little bit because I am forgetting finer points of the story. So I know with the way that some of these stories are being framed that they are people who played a part in the trilogy, or they're off the back of like following repercussions or something that happened because of something that happened in the trilogy, and I have no recollection of what that is anymore. So yeah, it was definitely an odd choice to publish it or like to not have it planned to be released earlier, and I definitely feel if I'd have read it off the back of the trilogy I would be having a better motherfucker. That hurt me in so many ways. I nearly burnt my hand and then I dropped them on my feet. And it's a difficult one as well because I don't know about anybody else, but I personally am not going to be rereading an entire trilogy for the benefit of a short story collection. Like if he released a spin-off, potentially, if he released a book 4, I'd probably I know probably definitely doesn't make any sense, but I feel like there would be a very good chance that I would reread. I'm not going to reread for the benefit of a short story collections, but I knew that going in. I knew that the release of 2022 was going to play a factor in my enjoyment. But aside from that, like I'm having a good time. I'm happy that it's such a fast read. I didn't read very much at all yesterday. Actually, I only did 50 minutes of reading overall because once again I knew that I had a readathon today. So if I was going to spend a night doing anything but reading, last night was a good night to do that. So I played Final Fantasy XIV instead, rebooted the old campaign that I haven't opened since December, January 2021 going into 22 maybe. I don't think it was 2020, but it could have been. I'm pretty sure it was 21 into 22. And I had a great time. The vibes were immaculate. So tomorrow night, because I'm going to be doing sprints until 7, I'm definitely going to be getting back on that. But yeah, you will see me at some point pretty soon, I imagine, because I for sure am finishing Gleanings tonight. I think I only have like probably about a couple of hours of reading time left in it. So the first part of the readathon sprints have ended and I did not finish Gleanings by Neil Shusterman. We rolled 2 doubles, so I have started something new now, but I did make it to page 350, so I only have like around 70 pages left, and I'm hoping that I can finish this off maybe in the morning before the sprints kick off at midday. Although then if that happens and we roll doubles again, I'm gonna have to start another new book, and I'm not sure how I feel about that, but we'll see what happens because I haven't decided what I'm actually going to do in the morning before sprints start yet. I'm thinking I might try and squeeze a workout in, and I also have a couple of sad looking plants that need repotting. I'm desperately trying to save a monstera that makes me sad every time I look at it. Like repotting it is my last attempt at saving its life, so keep your fingers crossed for me, because it was like my prized possession. It was thriving, and then for the past 6 months it's just been it's singing its swan song, you know, like it's not going well. The book that I started I'm really enjoying. It's Masters of Death by Olivia Blake, which has just been published, and I did have an arc of this. I wanted to get to it in July, but y'all know I've been a little bit behind over the last couple of months, so I didn't quite get to it, but I definitely wanted to prioritize it for this month. One of the reasons for that is just I keep saying that I love Olivia Blake synopses and I'm really excited to read the books, and then not picking them up. So I was determined to actually do it with this one, and this is the one with the synopsis that just sounds so fun. It is following a real estate agent that is trying to sell a haunted house, but the ghost in the house has been murdered, so she enlists the help of a medium that is the godson of death, except he's actually a fraud and isn't a medium at all. And I don't know if the whole book is narrated by Death. because it's kind of lost that narratory tone that it had at the very beginning. But Death is also a character that plays a big part in this. There's a demon who I think is a personal trainer. We've also just been introduced to a couple of angels, and I am loving this so far. The writing style is very conversational, and it took me a couple of chapters to adjust to it, but after that I sank straight into it and it started becoming like a really fast read. It does skip between stories, or like skip between, not timelines exactly, but in a very conversational style. So like as we're, for example, talking about how the ghost inside the house died and like what he remembers of his death, it'll skip between him having that conversation with the real estate agent and him flashing back to the day of his actual death, and then like she'll interrupt him, so it'll flick back to their conversation, then back to the day of his death. And it's done that pretty frequently throughout the book so far. So I am only 62 pages into it, although to be fair, that's not a bad dent that I've made in it. We're now at 3 hours and 55 minutes on the timer, and I can't tell you how much I've read at this point because I haven't calculated my pages, but I feel like we're doing well. So I'm gonna go to bed, I'm gonna get some sleep, I'm gonna read a little bit of Gleanings in there, and I will be in touch in the morning to let you know my final thoughts on this one. So this is the Monstera in question. As you can see, we've got lots of droopy dying leaves over here, but this leaf is actually pretty new and it's a big one, so like there's still some health in here. I just don't know what the issue is. It could be the soil, because I don't think it's in the right soil, because I had to do an emergency repot in October when it got thrips, but the thrips are all gone now, so maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed, it's a soil issue. But I'm actually kind of annoyed because I got my workout in this morning, I've had a shower, I've got ready for sprints which start in an hour, but I did all that before I repotted a plant. So I've showered, I've got myself ready for the day, and now I'm going to stick my hands in dirt. But I also this morning finished Gleanings. I don't really have too much to say on it because it's just a short story collection, you know. I've covered everything really. There are some stories that I really liked. My favourite one did remain to be The Mortal Canvas, and some of them, the other ones, were good, some were okay. I do feel like my enjoyment was hindered by the fact that like the series was finished 4 years ago, so I feel like this short story collection was a little bit late, and because of that I didn't have as much connection to the series and like the short story collection as I would have if this was published a little bit closer to the date of like the final book in the series. So I gave it 3 stars. It was an enjoyable read. I enjoyed being back in the world, but I didn't really love it in any way, you know. That one was my summon impling prompt, or like side quest for magical readathon. The roots aren't overly wet, so I don't think it's an overwatering issue, but the way that this soil is just coming out and the plant isn't really rooted into it, I feel like it's a soil issue. So hopefully we can salvage this after all. But yeah, that was my summon implings prompt for magical readathon. And I forgot to tell you guys yesterday, because I'm going to be continuing with Masters of Death today, that the prompt that one is in for is the final one for demonology, which was a poll pick. So before I did my TBR, I posted a poll on Patreon, and that is the one that won. Yeah, sprints are in an hour, so I can't repot all of the plants that need doing. I just desperately need to do this one. I'm gonna crack on with that because I feel like I can't concentrate on this and talk to you guys at the same time. I felt like I need to get the course and the summer, because there is going to be a new Leo and Cassia as they grow closer to the war.
Not all going in the same. You need like a little.
You're gonna walk your knees back, scap push-ups, grab one dumbbell bicep curl, hold, 3, 2, 1, let's go.
We are all evil in some form or another. Are we not?
I am having the coziest of cozy Saturday evenings tonight. Maybe a little bit too cozy actually, because for those of you who don't know, UK houses, like our houses, because our climate is very mild, our houses are built to retain heat. So that's great. In autumn and winter it's pretty handy, but in summer not so much, because when it gets to this time at night the temperature really starts to rise and I'm feeling a little bit warm. But I have read quite a lot of Masters of Death, left. I'm on page 308. I think I have about 75 pages left. It's like 9:20. So I am hoping to finish this tonight. And I am enjoying it slightly less than I was when I started out, because I really liked the writing style and the way that the story was being introduced at the beginning. But then as we moved towards the middle, everything just became a little bit much. Like, we had, I feel like a reasonably paced introduction to all of the characters, because there are quite a few. And as we know, they're all different creatures. They all have different things going on, and they all play a very specific part in this wider plot. But I thought that this book was about the ghost and getting rid of the ghost, and in a way it is, but that is just like one small part of a larger plot that I didn't know. And now the title makes sense now that I know what the actual plot is, but I feel like all of a sudden everything just came a bit much, and we had a lot of characters all in one room talking at the same time. And Olivia Blake writes really eccentrically, and I definitely feel it in this book when it has the most eccentric plot to start off with. So there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of convolution, there's a lot of intentional ambiguity, there's a lot of concepts instead of concrete things happening. So this book centers all around something, and that thing that it centers on is not a concrete thing. It's all very intangible. And if you know me, you know I really struggle with that kind of thing. I really loved the beginning, and I loved the writing style, but I think at a point in this, maybe like, I guess about 150 pages in, it all became a bit much. And when I think it was about 170, we found out what the actual kind of plot, or like the actual thing that the characters had to achieve in here. And I'm enjoying it slightly less. I am still really enjoying it though, and I really like the characters in here. I am interested to see how the plot's going to come together in the last 75 pages, because all of a sudden we have things kind of just like clicking into place, and I'm pretty sure that this one's a standalone, so I feel like everything's going to wrap up neatly. And while it does have a lot of intangible ambiguous elements in this story, I feel like Olivia Blake is good. From what I've seen of her just very briefly in Atlas 6, she's good at having all these little intricate bits click into place. So I'm really excited to see that happen at the end of this, hopefully, fingers crossed, because like I said, I've only read the Atlas 6, but just the way it's been coming together so far, I do feel like that's going to happen. So I feel like the end could make or break this for me. If it ends up like super clever and everything slides into place, amazing. If it continues in the theme of ambiguity, we all know I don't love an ambiguous ending, you know, so we'll see what happens. I am hoping to finish this tonight. I have also been watching a little bit of true crime, because I thought, what do you want to do right this second? Because I never do that. I never do what I want to do right this second, and I was feeling true crime, so I've started the Night Stalker documentary that is on Netflix. If you guys don't know, I listen to a lot of true crime. I listen to the Morbid podcast like religiously, but I don't watch a lot of true crime. So yeah, I've watched 2 episodes of that. It's not the best true crime documentary that I've ever watched, but it's decent. It's holding my attention. I was thinking when I was flicking through the true crime what to watch, if only my mum could see me now, because I hate crime as a genre. Fictional crime, like murder mystery TV shows, literally there is nothing more boring to me, because I grew up in it. Like the way that I consume a lot of romantic stories as well, but the way I consume romantic and fantastical stories, my mum literally only consumed crime in every medium, whether it was like TV, movies, books, it was all crime, and it literally just never interested me. But I always loved true crime, you know, like the true crime shows, I couldn't even tell you what they're called, but the ones that come on TV at like midnight, my mum would kind of sometimes be flicking through the channels and leave a true crime documentary on and then fall asleep, and I'd be on the couch like reading my book and end up pulled into the documentary. So true crime has always been something that I have enjoyed, but in a real passive way, where I only reached for it or I only engaged with it when it was on and my mum had fallen asleep. So yeah, I had that real cute moment. I've been having a lot of moments like that recently, not all of them cute, some of them quite sad. Oh, we need to check in with the timer actually. I think I'm about 9 hours. I did not do very well considering I was in a readathon, a 24-hour readathon yesterday. I think across the whole thing I maybe read for about 5 hours, and considering I did 12 hours of sprints, that was not a lot, but I was very distracted throughout that readathon. I was quite aware of it. But we are now currently on at 9 hours and 25 minutes. I have no idea how long this vlog's gonna last thinking about it, because we're just past a third of the way through the time goal, and we've been doing this for 4 days, which implies that this is going to be like 10 to 14 days as a vlog, which I mean, for when I'm intended on posting this is entirely too long. So yeah, I might need to get my shit together and I'm gonna put that into action now by actually reading my book. So I don't know why I've decided that Sundays are apparently my new deep cleaning day, but I'm back on the train I was on last Sunday and I've decided I'm deep cleaning this room today, which as you can imagine, there's a lot of stuff in here. So it's taken me a while. I've done this corner over here and this bookshelf at the back so far, and I'm literally just dragging everything out into the middle of the room, cleaning behind it, reorganizing it a little bit, and then putting it all back. But I am taking a brief break right now because, as I'm sure you've gathered from the fact that I've actually picked up a new book already today, last night I finished Masters of Death by Olivia Blake, and I enjoyed this one. I gave it a low 4-star. I think the direction of the plot and the type of story this is just isn't necessarily my favorite. It is kind of like a fun jaunt, a little bit in the style of Emily Wilde, where like I enjoyed the journey while I was partaking in it, but now that it's over, I'm like, yeah, that was a fun time, but I don't think it's going to stick around in my memory for any length of time. The ambiguity and misleading nature of the story definitely contributes to that for me, because as I mentioned, we got 100 to 150 pages in and the plot did become a lot. It became intentionally hard to follow, and because of that, it's like the details just aren't going to stick around in my brain for very long. That being said, I really love Olivia Blake's writing style. It is quite pretentious, it is quite convoluted, but I think that it's very good at building an atmosphere. I also liked a lot of the characters in here. I liked the eccentricity of the story, and we also had quite a few dramatic, angsty speeches towards the end of this that I also really enjoyed. So I'm definitely glad I read it, but at the minute, if we're comparing the two Olivia Blake books that I read, I think I prefer the Atlas 6 a little bit more, just because it feels like the Atlas 6, the plot feels bigger, because it's a series, whereas this is very self-contained, has a very clear beginning and end, and it's about just like enjoying it in the moment, I would say. Although there are quite a few like more poignant messages, I would say, on mortality in here as well. I think that I really like Olivia Blake's writing style, and she also gives me the impression with the synopses of her book that she's kind of like V.E. Schwab, where all of the stories that she writes are very different from each other. So like with me and V.E. Schwab, I feel like there's going to be Olivia Blake books that I love and ones that I'm less excited about, that I enjoyed a little bit less, I guess. This concludes my studying for demonology for Magical Readathon. Demonology is done. Your girl is distinguished. So that means that I just have one singular book left for my Magical Readathon career. Guys, it's the 20th of August and I've already read 3,500 pages this month. I haven't hit 4,000 so far this year. August is going to be my month, and I'm reluctant to say that because I don't want to end up falling into a slump, because what happens with me is like when something is quite difficult, I'll put a lot of effort into doing it, but when it's easy or when I get to the end of something, I just end up not finishing it, and I don't want to drag my feet on this. I don't think I am, because in terms of the timer, I'm not quite halfway through this vlog yet, which is also wild. But yeah, I'm hoping, could I hit 5,000 this month for the first time ever? Could this be my best reading month of all time? Stay tuned and find out. But the final book on my Magical Readathon TBR is the qualified prompt for spells and incantations, and the prompt is to read a book that is either black or has flames on cover, and as you can tell, we have a black background on this one. This one is also an ARC. It was released towards the end of July, so as with everything in my life, I am a little bit late, but this one is a historical fantasy that is set in, I think it's medieval Spain, at the time when all of the Jewish people in the country were told that they have to either convert to Christianity or leave. So in here we're following two characters that are fleeing, and they get separated from the caravan that they're traveling with and end up going on, I don't know whether I call it an adventure together, but so far from the 54 pages that I've read of this, there is a dream world that one of our characters can access when he sleeps, and I think that this is the same world that the pomegranate gate leads to. And our main female character ends up getting separated from the caravan, and she sees two guys disappear into a light, so she herself steps through the light, which is in a pomegranate grove, which I would assume is the pomegranate gate. And I'm thinking that that world is the same as the dream world, which our male main character, even though he explores that world and he has access to it, his father never really told him too much about it, so he doesn't understand it. I'm guessing it's like a hereditary thing. I'm assuming at this point that those two realms are the same, although I don't know for sure, because I knew the second I opened this book that it wasn't going to be a super straightforward easy read. We were going to have some things to learn about the world, because it starts with a dramatis personae, and at the back we also have a short glossary. So I'm enjoying it so far because I like really rich worlds like that. And the reason why, because historical, you know, isn't always my thing. Most of the time it isn't, but this is another book that reminds me of like the Winter Night trilogy, in obviously with a completely different culture, because this one's Spain with Jewish folklore, where the Winter Night trilogy is Russian, but the same kind of like historical fantasy European folklore mix coming together. And I've discovered I really like that. I am actually a fan of historical fantasy. I also really liked the embroidered book by Kate Hartfield, which is about the French Revolution and like what if Marie Antoinette had magic. So surprisingly, considering I generally think that historical fiction is a snooze, I really like historical fantasy, and so far so good in this one. I'm enjoying it. I'm only 54 pages in, so I guess it depends where the plot takes me. Oh, and also a big thank you to Solaris for sending this one my way, and of course to Black Crow PR for sending this one my way. Break time over. Well, I'm gonna take 5 minutes, I think, to kind of assess where I'm going next, and then I'm gonna get back on with cleaning this room, because my plan was, because I can't just relax unless I've done something productive, so I thought clean this room, then just go do what you want, read a book, play Final Fantasy. I mean, it's a bigger undertaking than I thought. I was hoping that I would be done by 2, and it's now 1:40 and the end is not in sight. Will I stay this way forever, sleepwalk through my life's endeavor? How can I repay whatever? Got a theory, it doesn't matter. What can we face if we're together? We are now 2/3 of the way through this challenge, and funnily enough, I think I am approximately 20 pages away from being 2/3 of the way through this book, so it's really lining up for us, and I am enjoying this so much. I was so right with the Winter Night trilogy vibes, but imagine the Winter Night trilogy meets City of Brass, but also gives a little bit of ACOTAR. And I don't want you to go into this thinking that it's going to be some like super compelling fantasy romance like ACOTAR. That's not the ACOTAR vibes I'm getting here. But the plot of this is that we have these two characters who are in, I think it's inspired by Spain. I know that countries had, this is where I show my lack of knowledge on history. I know that countries had different names back in the day in the medieval times, like Spain was not necessarily called Spain. I don't know what it was called, so I don't know if this is actually historical Spain, like medieval Spain, or whether it's a world inspired by medieval Spain, but the religions are definitely the same. Like we have Jewish people, we have Muslims, and we have Christianity. And the Jewish families have been told that they have to either convert to Christianity or leave. So the two main characters, Toba and Naphtali, join a caravan and start leaving the city with their families. However, Naphtali sees Toba getting kind of like waylaid by this guy who like takes her into the woods, and Toba can't, like she can speak, but she can't speak in a voice that's louder than a speaking volume, so she can't shout, she can't scream, and she also can't move any faster than like a general walking pace. So she falls behind the caravan, and Naphtali sees this, and he sees her get waylaid by this guy and taken into the woods. So he goes to rescue her, and he ends up wandering into this pomegranate grove where he sees her disappear into the pomegranate gate, and then she's gone. He can't find her. He's also with this old woman that he's been traveling with from the city, and they end up stumbling out of this pomegranate Pomegranate Grove, like 50 miles away from where they're supposed to be. And Naphtali has a sense of honor. Like, he just cannot let it go that he tried to help Toba and she's disappeared without a trace. And on top of that, Toba's grandmother also notices that she's missing, does a bit of scrying and links up with Naphtali, and they are trying to find Toba. Now, the Akatar portion comes in because we have a second dimension in here, which is, they're called Maziks, and they remind me a lot of the inhabitants of the city of Brass. So the place where Toba's gone is like, we're gonna call them demons. I have just had it clarified in the book that Maziks and demons are not the same thing, but they're this other race of people. They are kind of like Fae, they are kind of like Jinn, and Toba has ended up in their realm. She ends up being picked up by this guy and taken to this big like abandoned castle where this scholar lives with his heir, and that's it. So he lives with his nephew. There's nobody else there, and they vow to protect Toba even though she shouldn't be in this realm. We also have instances where they're taken to court. There is conflict within this demon realm that happened like over 1,000 years ago that has set up like a newly established hierarchy within the world. And all of that is given Akatar, but then the way that it's like this city and this culture within the world that the main characters are aware of, and the way that Toba is like kind of a part of that and becomes a part of that, reminds me very much of the city of Brass, but the way that it's told and the setting of it reminds me a lot of the Winter Night trilogy. So I'm having a real good time with this. Toba's perspective I'm enjoying a little bit more than Naphtali's right now, just because Toba is in this other realm, whereas Naphtali is kind of just like stumbling around in the real world with these two old ladies, which honestly is a vibe that I'm also enjoying because those two are bickering constantly and I'm living for that. This is surprisingly a fast read as well, and I wouldn't say that the pacing's necessarily fast, but I think it's just my immersion in the story and my enjoyment of the atmosphere that's making me read it quite quickly. It does have a glossary, but it is a very small one, and a dramatis personae, which led me to believe it was going to be like more complex than it is going in. It's just got a really good atmosphere, and when I'm picking up this book, I'm falling into it so quickly, even though the actual piece of the story and the way things are progressing are not the fastest. I'm loving this. So I'm going to order myself a finished copy. I looked to see if there's any special editions anywhere, but I don't think there are, which is fine. And I'm actually going to Waterstones this Saturday because I'm going to the Samantha Shannon event. So we're going to go into, it's the one in York, so we're going to go into York a little bit earlier than normal, like spend the day there, and then the event's at 7. So in the daytime, I'll probably pick up a hardback of this, providing they've got it, that is. I mean, they should, because it's a pretty new release, so I would assume they'd have it, but I have like £30 of points, and I never use my points to pay for pre-orders. I only ever use them if I'm actually buying a book there, or like I'm ordering a book, which I don't do super often. I mainly pre-order stuff. So yeah, I'll use my points for it. But today I am going to be working in the kitchen, which is actually my favorite place to work. I think it's just because it's a change of scenery. This room is next on my deep clean list. So it's not like, my office is quite nice to work in right now because like at least half of it is spotless. I saved the half around my desk and the fireplace for this weekend just because I'm a maximalist. There's so much stuff in that room. It takes forever to pull it all out, clean behind it, reorganize it and put it back. So I'm gonna finish that off this weekend and hopefully do the kitchen as well. That would be amazing. But we're working on this, my arch nemesis, which is the Bookopoly board. I've been getting a lot of questions about whether the Bookopoly-thon's happening. It's the 22nd of August, guys. It's not happening in September. Like, if it was, you would know about it, but it is happening. I'm confident saying it's happening now because I'm not making this for no reason. Whether I can turn it around, do all of this, make all of the digital elements and get it filmed, edited and ready to announce for what I'm planning on doing is another matter, but just be patient. It's coming and it's real exciting this round. I'm really excited to get into this one. And while I'm here, actually, let me know down in the comments, would you prefer a Bookopoly TBR or Bookopoly vlogs? Because I don't know which way to go. I don't want to do both because that lends normally to me not doing either very well. I personally right now I'm feeling like I would rather vlog because every other round of the Bookopoly-thon I've done a TBR, but because I haven't done a TBR in a while, would you guys rather see a TBR? Let me know what you think. Today I have like, I really just want to get this done, but this week I have lots of random little appointments that I need to go to, and I also have a bunch of side quests to complete today. So I have my nail appointment at 11, which is in an hour and 45 minutes. I'm going to then go pick up my prescription. I gotta go visit my dad as well. So hopefully in between that, I'll get a decent amount of work done on this, but I definitely want this done by tomorrow so that I can move on to like the rest of the elements that I need to do for the announcement and stuff. Keep your fingers crossed for me, because I'm feeling like my to-do list, knowing that I'm also going away twice in September and I have to film and edit all of my content ahead of that. It's getting a little bit overwhelming, because we all know I've spent most of August accidentally procrastinating. I am very, like, I can't explain how much I'm loving this book. She's like, why are you doing what? How big you're on? Well, too much on this book, because even though it was hard to get, literally nobody saw this coming, but it is 10:35. I'm about to get ready to go to my nail appointment, but I've been working on my Bookopoly board for just over an hour and I'm almost halfway done. Now, I will say that the squares that I completed are the ones that are present on the majority of Bookopoly boards, so it's not like I was doing the more creative spaces or the like designs that are new to this year, but I think I've done like 18 in total, which is way faster than I thought that I was going to be able to do this. So I'm going to head out, get my nails done, run my errands, and hopefully get to definitely over halfway. If I could get maybe around 3/4 of this done before 5 p.m, that would be the dream.
Doing your best to change the way they see.
I mean, other people get just their nails done. You get fucking epic artwork all over these motherfuckers.
Might leave the volume on that. Good afternoon, guys. I have been to my nail appointment, got my nails done. We have a nice blue sea theme. And I've been to the doctor's, but they're closed for lunch from 12:30 to 3:30. So I've made it to my dad's. My dad had a hospital appointment earlier today and he isn't back yet. So I called him from the doctor's and he said they'd be about 20 minutes, so it won't be too long. But yeah, I'm just sat here waiting. Luckily though, I did bring my book, which I almost didn't. I normally always pack it just in case, and I'm glad I did this time, because when I put it in my bag I thought like, oh, what if I don't need it? Like, it's pointless. Why am I carrying it for no reason? Turns out that was a good shout. So my plan is to stay here now. What time is it? 1:25. So I'm gonna hang around until just before 3:30, swing back to the doctor's, pick up my prescription and head home. The postman's here now, and I feel exposed, so I'm gonna go. I really enjoyed this series and I'm gonna be picking up more from Howling Lover in the future, and I did check out last night as well. I
think I have to look in a mirror to show you guys.
We go. It's time for the first Lorcana pack opening. Aladdin. Jasmine! Oh, she's in the blue. Is she in your deck here? Elsa? Is she new? And she should be in mine, right? Because she's red. Healing Glow. The Wardrobe. Why not my shiny is Hercules? We've seen him before. Donald Duck. Rafiki. Dr. Facilier's cards. Let it go. A whole new world. Tinkerbell's the shiny. Good evening, my guys. I have finished the Pomegranate the Pomegranate Gate, and I really enjoyed it. 4 stars, had a great time, and I will tell you a little bit more about this one, but it's midnight. It's midnight, which is way past my bedtime, so I'm gonna get some sleep and I'll check in with you guys in the morning, let you know where we're up to on the timer and my full thoughts on that one. And also, obviously, what I'm picking up next, because I actually have no idea. If you can hear some of that, but also more importantly some thumping and some drilling in the background, then don't worry about it. If you guys remember, a few weeks ago there was gasworks going on right outside my house. Well, they finished up that section of what they were doing, moved on somewhere else, and now they've come back to finish the job. So it's not too bad, like it's not too noisy, but there are just like periodic like earth shakes that you might be picked up on camera. But last night I did finish The Pomegranate Gate by Ariel Kaplan, and I loved this book. I gave it a 4 stars. It's one of those 4 stars. I'm not sure if you guys can relate, but I have my 5-star books like Lightbringer. Oh my god, loved it. Amazing, but can't form a critical thought. And then I have my 4-star books, which they weren't earth-shattering to me, but I had such a good time with them. And like, yeah, they weren't perfect, but I think about them regularly. And The Pomegranate Gate is one of those books for me. I'm really excited to go to Waterstones on Saturday, see if I can pick up a finished copy of this. And I'm so excited for the rest of the books in this series. This series is called, I think it's the Mirror Realm Cycle. And if you go on Goodreads, like it says that it's the first book in a series, but it doesn't say anything about later installments, so I have no idea how long this series is going to be, but I am here for it. It really does have elements of all of the things that I mentioned earlier. We have definite City of Brass vibes in here. We have definite Winter Night trilogy vibes in here. We also have quite a lot of ACOTAR type vibes, but without it being actually anything like ACOTAR. So don't pick this book up because I compared it to ACOTAR. Like, if that's the reason you want to read this book, you're going to be sorely disappointed because I guess it's just like certain circumstances that are reminding me of ACOTAR, but the book in itself is like nothing really too much like ACOTAR. But if you like City of Brass and the Winter Night trilogy, then yeah, pick this book up because it is definitely delivering on that. I did look it up, and this is not historical fantasy, and that it is actually set in medieval Spain. So when I was saying like my geography and my history are very poor, so I don't know if this is actually set in Spain or a world inspired by Spain. It is inspired by medieval Spain. So what's interesting about this, when like I said I've compared it to the Winter Night trilogy, is that this also takes place in a time of conversion, because the Winter Night trilogy takes place at the time that Christianity was kind of like sweeping through Europe and everybody was being forced to convert. And in the Winter Night trilogy it takes place in the transitional time where people are turning from the old gods that they previously worshipped into Christianity, which is like kind of new, and the religion that like the people who live in the cities are following. I really liked the writing in here. I really liked the atmosphere. I really liked the parallel worlds that we had going on. We do have like some romantic subplots in here. Not that I would call it a fantasy romance, it's just romance does play a small part in the story. One of the relationships I didn't gel with quite as much. I feel like while I understood why a relationship was developing there, I don't feel like I ever felt it. I feel like the characters kind of slipped into it a bit too quickly. And then we have this other thing that's like full of like pining and longing and like probably isn't going to be a thing, that I also really enjoyed. I love the dynamic between Naphtali and these two old ladies that he was traveling around with, and the bickering between the old ladies and him being stuck in the middle of them while they're both just trying to abandon each other and he's just like trying to get on with the mission. And I also really liked the political dynamic that we have within the demon realm and how that mirrors the real world, because the whole thing, the reason why this is called the Mirror Realm Cycle is because everything that happens within one world is mirrored and happens in the other one. So while we have people being forced to convert and political turmoil and unrest in the real world, that is also happening in the demon realm as well. I also really enjoyed the world building in here. I feel like it went into a good amount of detail about like the different realms and dimensions, why they mirror each other and that kind of thing. I had a really good time with it, guys. I would definitely recommend this one because it's by Solaris, so it's not like the most indie of indie releases, but it's for sure not a hyped one. I really liked it. I didn't know what to expect going into this because, you know, historical, not always my thing, though I do love a historical fantasy, and I loved it. Definitely a standout book of this month. Now that is complete, that means that I've completed my Magical Readathon TBR. I am qualified to be a demonologist for yet another year. We have succeeded, and this is probably my record with Magical Readathon. Like, what is the date today? The 24th? 8 days left of the month for me to read, and I'm done with my core Magical Readathon TBR, and I've summoned an implin. Like, literally, who is she? So Magical Readathon is not done here because, as you all know, if you are participating in this readathon, we also have side quests, and I didn't do this well. I've never done this well in Magical Readathon before, and I definitely didn't do this well in the spring round. And during the spring round there was a quest line that you could follow where you only get the first prompt, and when you complete that prompt you have to make a choice that takes you to another prompt. This is intimidating to me because I want this done by the end of the month. I don't know if I can do this in 8 days because I don't know what any of the prompts are apart from the first one, and I also don't know how many prompts there are within the quest line, but we're gonna give it a try. It's an alchemy track line, and the first prompt is to read a book that has like a night sky on the cover, or the cover is set at night, or has night in the title. And this, I struggled because I have 4 books, I think. Yeah, 4 books on my immediate TBR, like my priority TBR that's like currently stacked on the floor over here somewhere, that have night in the title. But the timer, because that's obviously an important part of what we're doing here. I have read a bit this morning because I can't come to you guys without coffee. I had to at the beginning of this vlog because I had to get the ball rolling. I had to get the ball rolling before I like started the timer and stuff, but generally that's just not something I can do, and I read with my coffee. So timer wise, when I finished this, I was on 20 hours and 5 minutes, so we're nearly there, guys. Now after reading today, I'm on 20 hours and 52 minutes, so I have 3 hours and 8 minutes left. And based on that, I worked out that I'm roughly reading 58 pages per hour. That would like leave me with about 50 pages that I could read within the time that I had left. So I went with the page count that was closest to that, and that was my June Patreon pick, which is Edge of Collapse by Kyla Stone. So the thing with this now though, now that I've read for 45 minutes, I'm 20% of the way through this book, and it says at the bottom here that I have 3 hours and 16 minutes left of the book, and I have 3 hours and 8 minutes left on the timer. So now I'm obviously gonna make it my life goal to finish this book as the timer runs out, but I don't want to finish it before the timer runs out, because then I'm gonna have to pick something up for like 5 minutes, you know? But this one is so compelling so far. I've flown through the first 59 pages in 45 minutes. So I think I can do this. But it is a apocalyptic kind of thriller, which I'm convinced it is potentially going to have some romance in it somewhere, but it's kind of dark, it's kind of sinister, and it's also giving me Butcher and the Wren vibes by Elena Urquhart, which isn't a book that I loved, but I feel like the perspective is potentially the same. So we are following a woman who has been kidnapped some years before the start of this story, and an EMP goes off and the power grid, all of the computers go dark. So this allows this woman to escape, and she's in this like secluded cabin in the woods, so her captor's not always around, and she takes this opportunity to escape. Now in the synopsis it says that we have another character. The EMP ruins his life, and I think they're going to meet up at some point and they're going to be traveling to safety together. However, the guy that kidnapped our main character, who is a perspective in this book, when the EMP goes off, he's like, well, I need to get to the cabin and see if she's still there. So he's making his way there as she is escaping. She's also like 8 months pregnant, which is why I said like it's pretty dark, because she's been a captive for years, and he's going to be on the hunt, and he's a sick guy. Like he likes hunting. He said that multiple times already. Content warnings in here, obviously, I'm assuming. It's like very heavily leading to me to believe sexual assault, also torture, because she's not had a great time in captivity, and kidnapping, and then also I'm assuming like an element of stalking with the way that he's going to be hunting her throughout this book. So it's a very compelling read, and I'm enjoying it a lot. This one was Debbie's pick, so thank you very much to Debbie for recommending this one to me, and it's only 309 pages as well. So at the speed that I'm reading it, I feel like I'm going to get through it pretty quickly. So I've been talking for way too long, way too long. So I'm gonna go because it is just past 9 AM. It's like 9:20, but my plan for today is to finish editing this vlog, edit this vlog as up to date as possible, which means that I'm really going to regret this clip in a couple of hours, and also put the finishing touches to the Bookopoly board and make some progress on the digital version, because I finished laying down all of the prompts and stuff. Everything's done on the board apart from the logo that needs putting across the middle, and because it's like a different, like a themed version this round, I want to say, I need to do a little bit of work on that logo and the Chance and Community shelf cards, make the digital version, and then we're done. I just wanted to pop in real quick and give you guys an update on the Monstera and how she's doing. Like, how long has it been? I actually don't know. Nearly a week since I repotted. As you can see, this guy here, he's going for the sun. He's like, give me them rays, bitch. I need them. So all of these ones have perked up pretty well. This is like the big new shiny one that we love, and yeah, we have some like crispy ends on them, which obviously they're not going to come back, but everything that was kind of curly is straightening itself out a little bit. We just have these ones at the bottom that have not lifted, and I think that these are going to have to come off. I'm going to give them maybe till the end of the week. That one is lifted, like that one is doing something, whereas these ones are completely droopy, so I think these two are going to come off. But these two are actually some of the original leaves from the plant when I got it like over 2 years ago, because they were damaged in transit, so they all have like tears in them. And I think I've had to cut, like, this was a much fuller plant, but with it slowly dying since last like October, I've had to cut a lot off it, so a lot of the original leaves gone. I'm also really bad at when I see a new leaf coming through, I like hold it like this and look at it, but obviously it's curled into a roll, and I always end up accidentally breaking the end off. So this is like what I've done before this leaf unfurled. I do have a shoot like buried right down here. You can't, it's not going to focus on him, but he's in here, hoping that he's going to come through. But I'm not sure if we've saved her yet, but I just wanted to let you guys know that there is a little bit of improvement here. I am thriving today, you guys, and I just needed to tell you about it. I am wearing like Christmas Disney pajamas, by the way, just in case you notice that like 'tis not the season. They're a really good summer weight, which is weird obviously because they're Christmas pajamas, but like, hey ho, it is what it is. And it is 8:45 and I got everything that I needed to do done today. I edited the vlog up today, I made graphics and scheduled 2 Patreon posts, I packed a handful of orders. I'm sure I did something else as well. The only thing that I didn't quite finish is the Bookopoly board stuff that I was doing. You know, I wanted to do the logo across the middle and the cards. I did the logo, I didn't quite finish the cards, and I haven't printed any of them out, but I do have tomorrow afternoon where I will also be editing the final clips of this vlog that I have filmed obviously since I finished editing. But most importantly, amongst all of that, I've also made dinner, had dinner, done a 40-minute workout and showered, and amongst all of that I have read 211 pages of Edge of Collapse. I have also gotten ahead of the timer, so we're going to be finishing this book with time to spare, and we're also going to be finishing it tonight, mark my words. So on the stopwatch I have 1 hour and 20 minutes left, so we are so close, and on the book I have 1 hour and 10 minutes. I don't know if that's focusing for you guys, but I got 1 hour and 10 minutes. So we're gonna finish with 10 minutes to spare. I'm brewing a cup of tea, which should be ready now, so I should go get it. And I've also put, because I'm doing the alchemy track, put that down. She's such a demon. Why was I cursed with this demon child? Don't get a Labrador, you'll regret it. Drop! Good girl. Anyway, I've got the alchemy ambience room on the magical readathon one because I'm doing the alchemy side quest, so I feel like it makes sense. I've just lit a candle. We're doing chocolate pumpkin today, and Curtis is upstairs playing Pokemon. I'm free for the evening. I'm going to be chill. It's going to be a great time, and I'm going to finish my book, which is really good, by the way. It's still super dark, even darker than it was. Nothing super graphic though, apart from the description, I would say, of torture. At this point, everything else, like the sexual assault and stuff, has been more alluded to, and you're made aware that it is a thing, but it's never described or anything. Darker than I expected going into this, but also like, so like I'm turning pages, like I cannot put this down. I can't believe I read 210 pages in this before 6 p.m. and I'm gonna finish it in 1 hour and 10 minutes. Like I actually can't believe that. So I finished the book and we have 15 minutes left on the timer, which means that we have to pick a 5th book for this video, and I'm shocked. I did not think that I was going to be getting into a 5th book in 24 hours, but I also didn't think that I was going to be reading an entire 300-page book today. That was definitely not on the agenda, and it's not even that late. It's like 20 to 11, so like it's my bedtime, so I'm going to pick a book, get in bed, and do the 15 minutes, but it's not like midnight or anything. I blasted through that book, and I had a really good time. More content warnings. I'm going to say one for animal abuse, and there were things that were happening in the action scenes in this book that were making my entire body like just like cringe up inside itself. It was, I want to say it wasn't a good time. It was more, not necessarily graphic, it was just more brutal than I feel I expected it to be going into it. Not that I didn't like it or was put off it because of that. I was just surprised because I didn't know it was going to have that level of, I guess, like abuse and violence when I went into it. And it's not especially graphic or anything, but this guy, this kidnapper, is a absolute monster, and he is like sick. He's a sick man, and he does sick things, and you read about them, and I don't feel like Kyla Stone shied away from portraying how much of a monster this man actually is. So do know that going into it. I obviously had no idea what I was getting into with this, so that's probably why that took me by surprise so much, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. That's something else as well that took me by surprise because I had no level of expectation. This as a genre is a survival thriller, which I've literally never read before, and I really enjoyed it. I feel like Kyla Stone either knows her stuff or is really good at research, and I can't say whether everything in here was accurate, but it felt accurate. Like, she was going into the details of survival. We were talking about EMPs. One of the characters is a soldier, and the way that he spoke about some elements, like I feel like maybe slightly technical elements. It is a series, and the series is, I think it's 7 books, plus it has some sort of short story that goes on the end, and also a 100-page like prequel novella following one of the characters. And I know that book 2, because this character that has been kidnapped that we're following in book 1 is married. Before she was kidnapped, like, she was married and she had a kid, and then she was taken by this guy. So her main goal throughout this book is to get back to her husband and her child. And book 2 is following the husband and the child, because obviously this EMP has knocked out power, I think it said like across most of the US. So while these are big players in the story, it's going to them and kind of like how they're dealing with this. And based on just like the covers of the rest of the series, it definitely goes back to the female main character at some point and she becomes the main focus again, but I don't know whether it keeps like flip-flopping between the main characters or whether it's pretty centered on her for the rest of the series. But yeah, definitely better than I expected, and that is the first prompt for the alchemy side quest done. So I've opened up the next part of that on my laptop, but I haven't actually read what the prompt is because I wanted to kind of do that with you guys so that we can think about what I'm going to read together, because remember, I have absolutely no idea what this prompt is. So I'm not going to, because the whole point of this is to make your own decisions. It's like story-based, choose your own adventure kind of thing, and you read through the script, you make your decisions give you the prompt. So I'm not going to tell you anything about what choices I've made. I will just read through this. Oh, my Nespresso order's on the way. I love that for me. I'm just going to read through this, make any decisions I have to, and let you know what prompt I need to fulfill. Because like, obviously I want to tell you what the prompts are, but I also don't want to ruin the experience for anybody who's yet to do the alchemy side quest, you know? This is great. So the prompt for this is to read the majority of the book with the alchemy theatre ambience room in the background, which is so funny because obviously like I'm already listening to that, like I already have it on in the background. The problem is though, is that leaves me entirely open of what I can pick. So do I go for something short and quick? Let's see what my TBR is currently organized. Like let's see what my priority TBR looks like right now. Before we look at my TBR, I just want to show you this because this is where I put my TBR. My TBR starts at this side and then I put my wrap up at the end, and obviously like as books come off my TBR and get added to my wrap up, they like move along. This to the end is my wrap up this month. Like I have read so much, plus the ebook that I've just finished. It's a lot, it truly is, but these are the next 2 most important books on my TBR, I guess. I also have a handful of arcs here, and also this big old stack of like, this is my Rome book club, 2 Patreon picks, an arc, catch up book club, and Wheel of Time along. So I definitely have a lot of books on my priority TBR. I'm torn because like obviously these 2 are right here for a reason. This one is my Patreon pick from May, so it is way overdue. But then this one I have to have read by like the 7th of September. This is Ashley's Croatia book club book. So I want to read it before I get to Croatia so that I don't feel like I'm struggling to read it while I'm there or anything. So I don't know which one to go for. Okay, so this was difficult. This was difficult because this one is YA. So even though this is the bigger of the 2, I imagine generally the pace will be quicker than this one, which is adult fantasy. And also, having read the entire Game of Thrones series, I know that George R.R. Martin's writing is kind of dry. So it was a hard pick, but I am just thinking about how happy I'm going to be when September rolls around and I've already read The Night of the Seven Kingdoms. So I think we're gonna go with this one. I'm not gonna tell you what this is about. It's like a Game of Thrones spin-off, but I'm literally like just reading this in this vlog for the benefit of the 15 minutes that we need to count down on the timer. So if you want to know the plot of this, which I don't actually know that much about it, to be fair. And if you also want to know my thoughts on it, well, I mean, that's just an incentive to tune into next week's vlog, right? So I'm gonna go get ready for bed. I'm going to take my laptop upstairs so we can put the ambience room on in the background. I'm going to read this for 15 minutes, make a note of the page, and come back to you tomorrow and give you an exact amount of pages that I can read in 24 hours. Finally, it's only been 9 days, which I'm really surprised about, because like when I started this, 24 hours felt like forever, but we've done it in 9 days. And while I'm really happy with the amount of time it took, like the amount of days it took to read for 24 hours, it still also kind of feels like my entire life, you know? We did it. We made it to 24 hours. I have my ASMR room, my ambience room going in the background, and we made it to page 21 of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, right at the bottom down here, so pretty much exactly 21 pages. More than I would expect in this book, but as you can see, it has some pretty big illustrations, so a lot of the pages don't have the most text on. So in total, across 24 hours, I managed to read 1,483 pages across 5 different books. So we read 3 books in their entirety, which was The Pomegranate Gate by Ariel Kaplan. We read Masters of Death by Olivia Blake. I also read The Edge of Collapse by Kyla Stone. And then I'm not sure how far into this I was when we started, maybe about 300 pages. So I think I read around 150 pages of this and 21 pages of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. If we break that down into an average per hour, because I'm always somebody who's thought that I read quite slowly, but through this challenge I've learned that I don't, because if we break it down into an average per hour, it was 61 to 62 pages per hour, which is pretty much average reading speed. The issue is that I don't read, so I don't spend time, like focused amounts of time reading. And my favorite thing about this challenge was that it actually encouraged me to do that, because if I know that time is running, then I'm going to read. Now, I don't think that this is necessarily something that I can implement on a regular basis, just randomly setting a timer to force myself to read, because if there's no end goal, if we're not filming a vlog where I'm trying to see how much I can read in 24 hours, that timer is essentially meaningless to me, and it doesn't matter to me that I actually spend that time reading. But for the purpose of this challenge, during this challenge, this encouraged me to read a lot. It held me accountable, and it also surprised me, because I really did not think that 24 hours was a large amount of time, when I've done 24-hour readathons before and I haven't read the most, and I know that that's me. I know that I spend part of that 24 hours sleeping. I know I'm not the most focused reader, but I truly did not think that we were going to be reading almost 1,500 pages in a 24-hour period. And obviously the books that I've read definitely lent themselves to doing well in this challenge, and that wasn't intentional. That was just the TBR that I had left for the rest of the month, because this one is a very fast read. Edge of Collapse I read in, was it like 3 hours and 45 minutes, 3.5 hours actually, because we had 15 minutes left over. This one was also a pretty quick read, and this one was faster than I expected, but that was more due to my absorption. But this also took me the longest to read out of all of the books, because I think if we think where the timer was when I started this book compared to where it was when I ended, I think 10 hours of this challenge I actually spent reading this one book, and it was the largest of them all at 500 pages. It was also the most dense and the most slow paced. So if I was reading, I feel like this type of book is more my usual than these types of books. So if I was reading, I guess, like an average selection of books, we only maybe would have got through 2.5 instead of 3, and then additional pages from 2 other books. So in conclusion, I would absolutely do this video again. I also thought that it was a really nice way to section a reading vlog, because I almost weekly vlog on this channel. Sometimes they're a little bit longer. We do the occasional 24-hour or weekend vlog. Generally, they're a minimum of a week until I finish a book or cover in like a certain period of time between specific time defined vlogs that I want to do, if that makes sense. Like, I have 2 weekly vlogs coming up, and then I have like a Croatia vlog, and then I'll have a small vlog in between, and then I'll have like a Rome vlog. So I've definitely become more adaptable to the length of time that I have vlogs running. But I think that a 24 hours, like 24 hours of reading, is potentially a really nice way to section out a vlog, because you get a decent amount read in 24 hours. And something that I really loved about this challenge, something that made this so enjoyable for me, is that I had to read for 24 hours, but that didn't mean that I had to read for a certain amount of hours every day. Obviously, this vlog needed to be done, or ideally would have been done before the date that I intended to post it, but it didn't mean that I had to read for 3+ point, I think it would have been like 3 hours and 10 minutes per day if I wanted this done in a week. I could read for 4 hours one day and half an hour another day, and all that mattered was that it eventually added up to 24 hours. And because of that, I feel like I didn't feel the pressure like I did when I swapped my phone pickups for reading, because then it made me not want to read, because thinking at 5 p.m. I still have 200 pages to read today was really overwhelming for me. And while I need the pressure to succeed, if it gets to a point where it's a little bit overwhelming, I just don't bother trying. So having an overall goal but not having to achieve a goal every single day, I feel worked really well and made this super enjoyable for me. So that being said, I'm not going to say what I usually do, which is let me know if you enjoyed this, and I might do it again in the future. Although please do let me know if you enjoyed seeing me do this 24-hour challenge. What I'm instead going to say is I am going to be doing this again in the future because I think it was a success on so many different fronts. And my reading month this month has been incredible. Right now, my goal and the goal of the next vlog, which will be the final vlog for Magical Readathon, because I said I was doing something a little bit special for every week. I've kind of run out of ideas for the last week of like countable goals, but I think what I'm gonna do is try and make August my best reading month, and my aim is to get to 5,000 pages. So I'm currently at the end of, what did I read last? Edge of Collapse. I am at 4,332 pages read, which is the first time in 2023 that I've gone over 4,000. Back in 2021 especially, but also 2022, I was hitting 4,000 pretty regularly. That was an achievable number for me. This is the first time in 2023 I've read over 4,000 pages in a month, but my best reading month ever was 4,855 pages, and I think that that was July 2021. So my goal for August is to hit 5,000, and that's what we're going to be working towards next week. So do stay tuned if you are at all interested in that. I do hope you've enjoyed this vlog if you made it this far. I think it was a great success. I hope you enjoyed watching it. But aside from that, guys, please don't forget to like if you liked it and subscribe if you wanna, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye!
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you're go where nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.